Since I live in a 55 plus retirement community, I have to keep all my tools and tables and everything covered when I'm not in use. So a bit of a pain, but if it'll allow me to continue with my hobby, so be it. The addition of the guides that I welded on the corners so that the cover wouldn't snag on anything has helped. I'm still getting used to the GoPro camera that I'm filming these videos with. Getting a little better at it, but of course it has an extreme wide angle lens, which is necessary for tight spots, but it's taken a while to understand how close I should get it to the work. And the other thing is, I don't want hot sparks or pieces of metal flying over on the camera. So I'm getting my notice I pulled out that little short table from under the welding table. That short table at one time I used to hold one of my welders or the plasma cutter. I can't remember exactly what I used it for, but I'm going to use it this morning. I'm going to weld a piece of small angle iron to it so that I can hang the chain, which is what I'll be making the flower pot tree out of. Hang it up on that and let gravity keep it straight while I weld. So now of course I've got to get my welders ready, and today I think I'm going to use my flux core welder instead of a stick welder. I don't have the issues with it sticking like I sometimes do with a stick welder. And since the only thing holding this chain straight is gravity, it won't tolerate much sticking. I'm going to move the camera closer to the work, which hopefully will improve the detail so you can see what it is I'm doing. This is Central Florida, and you can tell it's foggy outside. The humidity is probably close to 100%. While it's relatively cool this morning, the humidity makes it uncomfortable. Plus, I have no idea what this humidity is going to do to my equipment. But this is where I live, so I don't have a climate controlled storage area. Adding to the extreme unpleasantness, I have to, of course, put on some appropriate clothing for the welding. So that just adds more discomfort. In about another month, we'll start getting some really nice weather down here, and that will be so appreciated. One thing I like about stick welding is that I can weld right over the rust, so the surface preparation is not so much. But here, since I'm going to use flux core wire, I need to get the heaviest part of the rust off the areas to be welded. I'm using a flap disc in my angle grinder to do this. I'm going to move the camera once again to get it in a little closer to the work. I'm not going to check to see if this is square. It makes no difference. I'm essentially just creating a jig to hold the chain up. And on the chain, which is the only thing I'm concerned about, gravity will plummet for me. While I can and have done freeform tacking with a stick welder, it's a little more problematic because it oftentimes sticks. When it sticks, then I have to start the positioning all over again. So the advantage of the wire welding is it rarely ever sticks. The downside, of course, is the area has to be cleaned better than with stick welding. This is a little comical thing coming up here. Timber. See, thank goodness it doesn't have to be square. As you can see, my main welding table becomes a catch-all for everything. I don't have much shelf space. I do intend to put some hangers on the welding table, but they tend to get in the way, so haven't gotten to it yet. I'm going to tack a cross member on this shaft, which will be what I weld or what I hang the chain on. It's out of the camera view, unfortunately. This is 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch angle iron that I'm welding. I'm doing a little bit more than tacking because with angle iron that small, it needs to be pretty stable to hold that heavy chain that I'll hang up there to weld. I'm going to have to tack the chain on, otherwise it just won't hold up there. I could have made a indention on the cross member there and it might have held, but this is just so much quicker. The flux wire welder is running about 4 inches of wire a minute and approximately 60 amps. This is a cheap titanium brand from Harbor Freight. It works fine. You don't get a display on the front as to what the actual amperage is. You have to go by their chart, and so I'm just guessing at 60 amps. I've got it in the next highest, one click from being the highest setting. So it seems to work fine. I can tell if I have the wire feed too slow because it'll lose the arc. The downside of it is on something like this, I generally waste about as much wire as I use. That's probably not true, but I waste a lot of wire. What I'm working on here is what will become the tree trunk of the flower pot tree. The person I'm doing this for wanted to have something that vaguely looked like the tree of life in the movie Avatar. It won't. It'll only have a incidental appearance. Probably not enough for anybody to understand what I was trying to do. But it will hold up. She's got a number of pots of orchids, and she wants to be able to hang them on this, and yet have enough sunlight that they can grow. I think this will do the trick. I'm welding each link. Just a spot. I'll come back and weld it up when I've got all the links in. But as I weld more of those links together, the whole thing becomes more stable and doesn't swing quite as much. So this is just more of the same. I'll speed this section up. Whoops, I missed the link. See the chain swinging, it's not supposed to do that, so I'll have to take care of that now. I'm using a piece of scrap angle iron here, and I'll oil this on the bottom of the chain, that is the trunk of this tree, and about half that length will be driven into the ground to hold everything up, hopefully. You see, here I am trying to jury rig something to hold that. Let me correct something. That's not angle iron, it's rebar. To hold that rebar up against the chain. And as you'll see, I'm not making that work. So this is where using the flux core wire allows me to hand hold that until I can get it tacked, which I would have a lot of trouble doing with stick welding. Tumble-umma-tumble-tumble-tumble-lia. Nope. Not gonna work. Nope. Okay. Just gonna have to hold the blooming thing by hand. Actually, I will use that locking pliers to hold it instead of burning my fingers, but I'm gonna have to position it freehand. And it turned out pretty well. Well, I was able to hold it straight enough. I may have to do some minor adjustments, but on a length of steel and chain that long, if I need to adjust it, I can clamp it in a vise and hit it a few times with a hammer and probably be okay. So now I just finished welding it on out, and I've done about as much as I can in this heat. So that'll be the end of this session today. So I've done about everything I can with the jig, so I'm going to cut the chain off that cross member. So I can lay it on the table for further work. And there we go. A bit more welding it out, particularly where the rebar contacts the chain link, because that'll have to be very strong. Otherwise it won't hold up long. done for today. If you will, hit the like button, subscribe.